Well, hello, Dartfish Rally friends, and welcome to what is a bonus edition, David,
Bonus edition
of Spin the Rally Pod. Now, hopefully you're listening, and you have been listening for a number of years, to Spin the Rally Pod as a traditional podcast. But, David, we're trying something different.
What's it called?
It's called the Vidcast.
A vodcast. Is it called a vodcast? Colin thinks it's a vidcast. We think it's a... What do you think? Or
Let
is it
us know in the comments
podio?
below. Vidcast, podcast, or what you call it?
Podio.
But I love Podio. It is a bonus edition, and there's a very, very good reason why we're putting out this special edition of Spin the Rally Pod. Big news from Toyota.
Really big news, Cole. Obviously, we knew Jari-Matti Latvala had wanted to move back into some sort of competition for next year, and he will do. He's doing the FIA European Historic Championship. There will be some clashes. That means that the team principal role is open, and they're bringing in a name that is absolutely synonymous with Toyota, won World Championships with Toyota. You should introduce him, Cole.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's hear from the man himself. It is Juha Kankkunen, the new joint team principal of the Toyota Gazoo World Rally Team.
I have been talking with the team and they asked me to be a team principal. Not every rally because Jari-Matti will start the season, but then the rest of most of the rallies. And I said yes, if I'm good enough and you accept me, then I will be available definitely.
And you've been around this team. You're an ambassador for Toyota for a long time now. How exciting is it to take that step up to a team principal?
Now, of course, it's a great pleasure. I mean, I was driving when I was driving my career. I drove 9 years totally with Toyota, and Toyota was my first team to give me opportunity to take part of the World Championship. And I won the World Championship also with Toyota and things. I mean, it is great pleasure. I mean, it's a kind of dream that I was going to retire completely, but then I have been now 2 years doing little bit of demonstration work and helping where I can help the team and things, and it's good pleasure to be, and I'm very happy about that.
And you, when we go back to the start of your career, you worked with the great Uwe Andersson, and you kind of learned the skills of a team principal from the very best, really, because Uwe was the best, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I mean, I have had many teams. I've been working with many teams. Yeah. There's two people, let's say Uwe Andersson and Jan Todt.
Yeah.
I was driving the Peugeot, you know.
Yes.
Between the Toyota times there, and these two guys were somewhere. Yeah. I mean, they were the proper bosses and big bosses, and very nice to work with. So really professional, good guys.
What do you think? What makes a good team principal? This is a very good team. Sebastian Ogier, great drivers. What will you bring, do you think, to the role of team principal?
It's just team spirit and teamwork. Toyota, I mean, you have to have all the right people. Even if the cook is not doing the good food, it doesn't work. So everybody is important, and everybody is pushing together, and the team spirit, the feeling there, it makes it, you know, that everybody is smiling. Okay, there is not, every day is not the best day. Yeah, and bad things happens and things, but as long as I have been with Toyota, I have been in so many working previously in many teams, but Toyota is probably the one of the best team in the world.
And the feeling for you is still the same as when you started your career with Toyota?
Yes, I'm very happy and good people, and we cooperate so well together with Japanese people, and they are really good, and that's very important, you know, to do the cooperation work well together.
And obviously Akio Toyoda is a very big part of this team. You have good relations and good conversations with Akio.
Yes, we have been driving. Normally always when Akio would like to drive, he wants me to co-drive for him and tell him that when to brake and when to turn. So I've been 2 years before been driving with him and working with him, and we are good friends, and his father was the big boss at the time when I started with Toyota beginning of 80s.
Wow, I never knew
so
that.
Big relationship. Basically.
So the second generation
generation at the moment.
Incredible. And what about, we saw when they were bringing this current car, the Rally 1 car, you did some early driving in the car. Is there any kind of development, driving, or anything like that, or just?
No, I leave that to the boys. And when you are on that situation, I have been right now driving some demo drives and things like Goodwood, and might be if there is possibility, but normally during the World Championship rallies, you are not allowed to.
Yes.
You are not allowed to drive anything, but thing like Goodwood Festival or something, if there is a place, I might still drive a little bit, but not much.
Not much. And tell me, Jari-Matti, obviously you share the role with Jari-Matti Latvala. What we've seen Jari-Matti achieve in the last 3 years is very strong. How's your relationship with him?
Very good. And Jari-Matti is really a good person, and it's so easy to talk with him, and the same people will still be there. You know, Jari-Matti will still be behind, and Aruna-san will be there, and all the other guys, they know the work and I know them, and I can't see that it's a big problem. I can always go and ask if I need some help or information or whatever.
Yeah. I've saved the most difficult question for the last. You, through your career, working with Cesare Fiorio, all of these people, you saw some incredible team orders, decisions sometimes for you, sometimes against you. In this team, they don't use team orders. When you're when you're the boss, will you think about team orders? Do you think they should be used more in Toyota?
No, that okay. Depends what kind of situation or whatever happens and what time comes and things. But the team orders at the time in the early days, they were more, let's say, important in somehow to help somebody to get, because there were so many teams, so many more cars, and so many. It's quite straightforward nowadays, and everybody is going basically flat out from the start to the end. So there is not really. Everybody is trying the best what they can do.
In terms of what we see you do in the winter with the incredible donuts in the tractor and the winter driving school, will you still have time to do that?
I have a little bit of time because this next year we will have Toyota there as well, and so we will drive Toyota and Audi together, and I will be there at the Toyota time when they are driving, helping them a little bit, but looks like that not that much than before. So
no,
because the rallies are just coming straight from the next one to the next one.
Will you come to all of the rallies and just be team principal on some, or what is?
I come to Monte Carlo, but Sweden, which one is middle of our session, and Toyota is driving already in the north. I will not be there. Jari-Matti will be there, but since that I probably will be in everyone.
Really exciting news indeed that Juha is stepping up to the joint team principal role, but we haven't seen the back at all of Jari-Matti Latvala. He still has a very, very important role to play within this team.
Yeah, I've been doing the team principal job now for 4 years, and I think after Rally Finland, really 2024, I really felt that how much I enjoy the driving. And I thought, I would like to drive more. Being in Finland with a Rally 2 car was really nice, and then I, really got more hooked in. I mean, I can be very honest. I lost the passion for driving at 2019, but now it's time, and I feel it's the passion has come back. And at the same time, there was an opening, a new door, that European Historic Championships was changing the regulations and allowing newer cars to come in. And one of my favorite cars has been Toyota Celica ST185, and the year 1993 when Juha Kankkunen won the championship. And this is my one dream, to drive that car probably in a competition, and now it's coming possible.
What made that car so special for you? Was it a boyhood thing or a memory thing?
I think it's like a boyhood thing, I was about 8 years old when Juha won the championship, and following that car, there was a couple of elements. It had an anti-lag and a fire coming in the exhaust, the big flames coming out from and the way Juha was driving, it looked magnificent back then. And that made really something, really inspired me. And also I was a fan of Juha of course, those times.
Yeah, well, you've mentioned him, Juha. I mean, in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that you would be kind of sharing the team principal role with the great Juha Kankkunen?
No, never. First of all, I remember the young boy, when I managed to get to meet Juha Kankkunen, he was like, hands are shaking. And I was 15 years old when I really properly managed to meet first time Juha, my father, to his farms. And then I could never imagine to being a team principal. And secondly, to share the job with Juha Kankkunen. But I'm really glad with Juha that, now he has been working as an ambassador for Toyota Gazoo Racing World Rally Team. And we have been traveling, quite a lot together and doing things, going to eat together and things like that. It's been very, very nice to talk with him, and we share a lot of same opinions. So he's a perfect, I would say, this role to support me as a team principal.
It must be, in some ways, a bit of a nightmare though, Jari-Matti, because you spend time together now, you have meetings together, and I'd imagine all you want to talk about is 1993, and you have to talk about 2025. How difficult is that balance?
Yeah, okay, we have to think about the modern rallying for sure. And important, what Juha is very keen to know always is the driver's comments. So we're hearing the driver's comments, and of course we are discussing about the new things and elements. But then yes, time to time we go back in the older days. But yeah, I have to say that there were also some good things back in the day. Always the old days are not always. There's actually a few points which we can take and we could learn actually that we have maybe going sidetracked, yeah. I would call that. And then you don't think, you talk about the things which were back then maybe better and maybe which were worse.
Yeah.
And how we can, to improve the championship these days.
We talked about this yesterday. There is, a four-time world champion. He comes with such a depth of knowledge from so many different teams, so many successful teams, team principals. He does bring a vast kind of bank of knowledge, doesn't he, to this job?
Yes, he has seen so many decades and so many cars, so many teams. So for sure he had a huge experience and which can benefit the whole team.
What's the kind of thing, what are you talking about now? Is he asking you any different aspects of the job? What should he kind of do his homework on? What should he get ready for next year?
So basically now, what I've been talking with Juha is I've been telling him stories inside the team, what is happening and what are the targets, and then sometimes we've been talking with the mechanics, so been taking Juha along, so the guys start to know a bit Juha, because important thing is that Juha would then talk with the guys and everybody would be familiar with Juha being in the team, that they don't, sometimes it can be that when he's a four-time world champion, some people are a little bit they have so much respect that they don't have, desire, or basically they don't have the courage to come to talk.
Yeah.
So then try to make sure that everybody's comfortable with Juha in the team, and then of course I've been showing Juha what I do with the drivers and what I talk with the drivers. Like in Rally Japan 24, we had a meeting before the event, and I had a little speech, and Juha was there to see what I say to the drivers, and then we talk about it, and he said I absolutely share the same opinion with you. I would say exactly the same things.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because it must be difficult. You're a very finished team, so based in near to Vascular, and it must be a dream for a lot of these mechanics and the engineers that are working here to see Juha Kankkunen coming into the team, just like you.
Yeah, I would say Jyväskylä is the heart of the rallying. There's so much passion around it, and the people who are living there and working for the company, they're really rally enthusiastic. But of course, I must say that I'm really, really happy that this team has so many also foreign people. And then also I give a lot of respect for these foreign guys, that they've been coming to live in Finland and working in Finland. That's a great step what they have taken. And but generally, it's great that now Juha is also located in Jyväskylä area, so it's very easy for him to come to also the workshop to say hi to the guys, and when we have meetings, join the meetings, and so it's very handy like that.
Yeah. Now a little bit more about your year, but as a driver again. I'm fascinated to hear you say what you said about 2019, and As somebody who, almost from the moment they were born was bound to be a rally driver, it must have been so difficult that 2019 season to lose everything that you kind of know.
Yeah, I give you an example. Up to 2019, always coming to the World Rally Championship rally, I had always, you have a bit of excitement in the body. During that year when it was difficult because of my personal relationship, also the problems with the taxation things, and then they started to get in my head. And when coming to the events, I wasn't nervous anymore. That was actually a bad sign. Yeah. You think it would be good enough, but when you are not excited anymore, you lose a little bit the nervous feeling. Yeah. You have lost the passion for competition. And then I only realized it after the season that was the sign I should have got more critical about it. And then it took maybe a couple of more years, and then when I've been doing these events with the Celica, and I realized the feeling started to come back. Yeah. And it's been coming more and more. And 2023 Rally Finland, for the first time I felt now it's, the old feeling is coming back.
Yeah.
And 24 I can feel that it was coming even more. And then that was the decision I said, now I realize that what I know, what I learned, what I have done, now that all that skills are back. 2019, as you mentioned, I had lost them because my mind was far away. But I have got my mind back, so then I want to enjoy the driving again.
Yeah, I remember talking to you through 19 and a lot of that personal stuff was going on, and we didn't write anything about it, we kept it very quiet. But how much does it now annoy you that potentially brought about the end of your career too early, didn't it really?
Yeah, it did, for sure. If I would be managed the situation better, you never know, I would have been driving now. But on the other hand, I would never be in the team principal. Yeah. So it's always two aspects on the side. Yeah. And being on this job and seeing the drivers and the way the drivers are, what they're doing, I also realized that my mistakes, what I did. So even though if I had carried on, probably I would have never been world champion because I would have needed the break. Yes. To understand the mistakes, what I'm doing. And that's why it was like in the 24 season, we also had a little break for Takamoto because sometimes you have to stop and then you have to think out from the box. But if you keep going the same system, so I mean like a championship, rally after rally, you don't stop. Yeah. And sometimes, the same mistakes keeps coming again. Yeah. And then after the break, if I would have now started again like completely, maybe it could be a different story, but now I'm already started to be 40 years old. So I think now it's time to do something different, and the European Championship is the right place to be.
That was my question, was if you could take all of the knowledge that you've got over the last 4 years and tell a 28, 29-year-old Jari-Matti Latvala, you could have been world champion, do you think?
Probably, yes. The mistakes what I did, the very, very stupid mistakes, I think I would have avoided. I would have been able to avoid, like 2014 season, I think would have ended differently if I had that knowledge what I have now.
Yeah, but there's a chance you're going to be champion hopefully next year. Tell us a little bit about the car. Obviously the ST185, you've been building it in your own workshop. It's been a labour of love, and now the opportunity to drive it.
Yes, we've been building the car now, I would say about 2 years. And the car is made from the road car, but it isn't like an exact replica what Juha was running in the 93 season. But the regulation actually, we had to go a little bit, we had to take some steps back because the car needs to be like a 92 specification. Because there is the period where I'm going to drive is called a J2, and that period ends in the end of the 92. The Celica ST185 was homologated 92. Yeah. Then there was some new homologations coming 93, 94. So we need to basically follow the homologations done in 92. So the car is like the last spec of 92 version. Right. But still it has it's going to be a 38 millimeter districtor. So I think the brake horsepower is going to be like 300, about 380. 6-speed dog box, extra gearbox. It has the central diff working with an oil pressure, which was homologated at the time by X-Track. And it's it has we call it there's an aluminium uprights, which was also a big step at the back at the time. Tubulous rear subframe, so you can also change the roll center on the car. These were updated. So there was that car was quite sophisticated back in the day, and that's why it's actually pretty nice these days to drive this car, because it's not so far away when the surfaces are good. It's not so far away from the modern cars. Of course, when it's a bad surface, then the suspension travels are far away where the modern cars are.
But I remember I've read about back in the day, it was almost too sophisticated, wasn't it? The center diff and everything, it caused some problems for that car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there was about experimental things, and then they were having issues in the beginning. But at the end, I think they managed to run it quite good. But especially the center diff problem was that if the oil was getting too hot, then the car was only two-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And but I think we have found a solution for that. So I think these days, the oils are already improved a lot.
Yeah.
So modern oils when you are using, and the circulation is better, the heat treatment is better. So it's actually working better these days. The system what it was back in the day.
And will you allow Juha Kankkunen to come and shake down the car maybe?
Absolutely. I want Juha to drive it. I want him to feel it. I want his opinion. How is the car I have built? How does he feel compared to one he drove?
Fantastic. Jari-Matti, we wish you all the best for next year in both roles. It's going to be a great year.
Thank you.
David, I have to say, we've known for a little while now that Jari-Matti was going to take a part-time role next year. But we assumed, and we talked about it in previous editions of Spin the Rally Pod, we assumed that, as we've seen in the past when Jari-Matti's not been available, it would just be a joint responsibility between the likes of between the likes of Tom Fowler and Kai Lindstrom, and almost a management, I don't know, a decision by, what's the term I'm looking for? It's committee. A committee that there wouldn't be two team principals. The fact that there are two team principals surprises me, and it surprises me that they brought Juha in.
But
not that I don't think he's going to do a very, very good job. It's come from out of left field for me.
Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, it will do, won't it? Because we see Juha Kankkunen on Rally Japan. We've seen him here for the last 2 years. We know he's an ambassador. We saw him in Finland as well. But outside of those events, we don't really see an awful lot of him here. So, yeah, he wouldn't have been at the forefront of your mind, but obviously he has regular communication with Akio Toyoda and with the team here. This team is a very Finnish team. He's a 4-time world champion Finn, so he's never going to be far away. Is it left field? Yeah. It is, of course it is, and I'm trying to think of it. For me, the one that I would remember that you probably wouldn't remember is somebody who comes straight out of competition and goes into management and didn't actually do very well was Martin Johnson as an England rugby coach.
Okay.
Jono was captain, won England the World Cup, and then tried to coach the team, and it really didn't work out for a whole bunch of reasons. But the point I'm trying to make is that you don't necessarily have that immediate skill set that you need to go into team management.
This I think is really interesting. It's really interesting because this is where they won't work in isolation. They'll work together. Even although they'll be independent, there'll be rounds that Jari-Matti clearly adopts the role. There'll be other rounds that Juha adopts the role. But that won't be complete separation. They'll work together, and I like that idea. You've got someone like Jari-Matti. Now, he's been a successful team principal, remarkable success. Someone who had no experience and who was still is a driver. But you know what? When it comes to perhaps slightly more difficult, so more stressful, more situations that require maybe a little bit more depth of experience in the role, this is where the likes of Kankkunen, as he said in the interview, he worked for the very best.
Yeah.
You know, he learned from the very best.
Yeah.
Huge amounts to offer.
And it is a different generation. You know, Uwe Anderson was a guy who carried Toyota to its first World Championships, and he was an old school team manager, team principal, and Juha had a great deal of respect. He was the guy that brought Juha into the sport, so he's learned from the very best there. And what he brings, you know, you look at somewhere like Monte Carlo, you know, Jari-Matti has a huge amount of experience. There's a lot of experience around the team. But Kankkunen has a whole load more experience that I've never really even sort of delved
Absolutely.
into. So there's no shortage of knowledge, and you think, oh, how applicable is that knowledge these days? It still is. You know, those mountains haven't changed, the roads haven't changed, the seasons are still essentially the same.
And the man management is where it's at, really, for me. That's
the big thing that he talked about. Sorry to jump in, Cole.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing that Juha was very kind of good at was bringing his team around him.
Yeah.
You know, he had his brother doing his gravel note crew, and you know, you look at people like Nicky Grist who co-drove for him. Incredible. Yeah. You know, anybody that worked with Kankkunen knew, super driven guy. You know, one of the finest drivers in the history of the World Championship ever. And just an ability to bring the best out of people.
And you know what else he does? You know, he has the ability to go anywhere in a service park, to walk through any door in a service park, to walk in on any meeting, anywhere in rallying, and for people to stop and show him respect. And listen to what he's got to say. And I think it's quite a ballsy move. You know, we look. You mentioned rugby. We look at soccer. We look at other forms of motorsport. We look at MotoGP. We look at Formula One, and the trend is towards younger, more energetic team principals.
Yes.
I think it's a ballsy move, but I think it could be genius. I
as soon as I started talking about Martin Johnson, I kind of regretted it because he didn't succeed with England. No. You know, for as I said, different reasons. But Kankkunen will. You know, he is not going to be an autocratic team leader. There's not scope for that here. We know the management structure. There's Tom Fowler there, there's Kai Lindstrom, there's Jarmo Lehtinen, there's Haruna San.
Yeah.
There is, and you know,
that's the committee.
That's the committee. And you were quite critical of that committee because it is difficult to make the snap decision about that. But you know, for me, Kankkunen will feed brilliantly into that. I don't think that when Jari-Matti's away, there's definitely a time when Jari-Matti was announced as team principal here at the top of 21. There were people like, what? Yeah. Does that really make sense? And people had their doubts about him. He's proved them wrong.
Totally.
You know, World Championship after World Championship has come to this team. And fine, you know, Jari-Matti hasn't stood up there and said, follow me, I'm leading you to the top of the world. But he's corralled that group of people, that management committee, brilliantly. You know, we know there have been times in that command centre where there's been discord, arguments, and Jari-Matti has that ability, and Kankkunen has the same coolness just to relax things. And you know, sometimes you need a driver in there, a driver that's been in these really hot moments that can just say, okay, I understand everybody's perspective, but this is away from a driver's view, if you like. And I think that's what Kankkunen will bring. But
and it's not just a driver, it's a driver who's been world champion with different teams. He's seen the way different teams operate. He's seen many different systems used, so he can draw on all of that experience. As you say, it's not relevant. It's relevant. It's not recent experience, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the recent experience comes from the rest of the committee. I am still absolutely uncertain about this whole committee thing, and I don't think it's the best way. I think that any team operates better under a firm, strict, very, very defined leader. Any team. The very best teams in the world have always had, you know, a manager, a coach, and a team captain who absolutely inspire. And there are very few successful teams you're going to look at in any sport that have been run by committees that actually succeed.
Yeah, but what you just talked about, is that not a committee? Albeit a smaller committee?
No, not at all. It's a very, very defined structure. It's a very defined structure.
No, yeah, but yes and no, Cole, because you've got the man at the top that says, right, this is my decision, I'm taking responsibility. But does he constantly, you know, when his second in command says, we should go left, he says, no, I'm going right, I'm trusting my instinct of going right. No, you know, there's a group discussion. There's a group element to every decision.
Well, that's
not
team.
every decision.
That's
that's
a team.
the team
That's a
element.
team.
And inevitably, you know, I can't really see any sporting arena or sporting team now that it is led by one single absolute. You look at, say, Alex Ferguson as coach and manager, whatever. I was going to say team principal. He wasn't. Whatever he did at Man United, that was a very different management structure to what. Okay, someone like Pep Guardiola, maybe. I don't know enough really about
Pep
football.
Guardiola for me would have been is the ultimate example. It is Pep's way or no way.
Is it though?
Oh, 100%. Let's look at Formula One. Let's look at the Williams, not the Williams team, the Mercedes team. Let's look at the Red Bull team. They are very much run by Red Bull, by Christian Horner, and Mercedes is very, very much Toto Wolff.
No.
And they are very competent people. Well, listen,
I disagree completely.
I am here to be absolutely proven wrong, and I would love to be, but I just don't think it's the strongest way. Is that old-fashioned? Probably.
No,
and as I say, I take my hat off to Toyota. I take my hat off to them for trying to do things differently and to succeed in doing
No, I
things
think
differently.
the Red Bull example, Helmut Marko, Christian Horner, there will be many, many more. Adrian Newey, all of them fed into it, and I'm sorry, it's not one person, Cole.
Yeah,
and
but
so you don't.
ultimate responsibility is one person. I know it is. No, it is.
All
I
right,
think it
yeah.
is. I think it
I
is.
disagree. And I think these teams can masquerade as, I'm the team leader and I'm the one. Toto will.
Maybe it is a
There's a
masquerade.
whole
Maybe it is
manufacturer
a masquerade.
behind these teams. You know, do you not think Mercedes has a massive feed into the Formula One team? Of course they do. Toto Wolff doesn't stand up and say, "Follow me, we're going this way. I'm doing this today."
The Abu Dhabi Wealth
Excuse
Fund has a lead as someone that writes the checks for Man City. I'm absolutely sure of that. But it's listen. I'll be delighted to be proven wrong. It's been a difficult year this year.
It's not going to take long.
Difficult year this year for
6 months.
Yeah, very possible. It's very possible. But for me, it's an experiment. It's
Yeah,
an
but this-
experiment.
this-
But sometimes we need to experiment. Sometimes we need to push the boundaries and do things differently. And it may well be an experiment that works gloriously. And if that's the case, I will chapeau, take my hat off
Yeah.
to those that made the decision at Toyota.
Undoubtedly, the fact that Calais was permitted to take half a year off, we're digressing a little bit, that was a management decision. If there'd been a rallying equivalent of Pep Guardiola, the decision wouldn't have been different, because Calais would have said, well, it's essentially, I'm sure, it's my way or the highway. Nothing was going to stop Calais Rovanpera from taking 6 months off this year. So whether it was one manager, one head of the team, or a committee of people, the decision was the same, and that essentially was what floored Toyota this year, wasn't it? Everything else was pretty much the same. So that one decision. Stop looking at me like that. What does that mean?
I'm not really getting what you're saying, but
So you're saying that this year
was
was a difficult year for Toyota.
Yeah,
The difficulty that Toyota faced this year was caused by Calais taking half a year off.
I'd argue it was caused by an inability to make decisions and the right decisions. I think the right decision,
Okay,
I wouldn't have let him take the year off. And if he wanted to go, then he's off.
But that's my point.
Fine, off you go. No single person is bigger than the team. No single person.
So you would have
Apart
said,
from
you're
perhaps
gone.
the boss. He would not have gone, but I'd have said, yeah.
Yeah, but is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
So
but
you'd
he
have
would not
said,
gone.
you do a full season or you're sacked.
Yeah,
You'd have sacked Calais Rovanpera,
Yeah.
the reigning world
yeah,
champion.
100%.
Colin is
100%.
not getting the job.
100%.
I can see your point, and it's very easy to sit here and...
our good friend Andrea Adamo, do you think he'd have taken that? No, he would not.
It's hard to say.
He
Adama
said,
is the
off you
obvious
go,
one.
I will rework. I will work with what
No.
I've got. I think he would have.
Andrea
In the comments below,
Andrea Adama,
our friend.
and we are going for dinner in London. We'll explain that whole reason for going for dinner in London. It was a bet that was made at the start of the season, which
Yes.
I may have lost a little bit. But anyway, looking forward to dinner with Andrea. We will tell you exactly what Andrea said. I can't imagine that Adama would have said to a world champion, it's full season or see you later. Wouldn't happen. But we'll find out. No?
Yeah, absolutely. I just, I can't see a strong leader being dictated to
It's-
by a team member. Here's an example for you. Scotland's biggest talent, football talent, in the late 80s, early 90s.
Ali McCoist.
No, Duncan Ferguson. Duncan Ferguson
I
was an
knew
enormous talent at Dundee United. The biggest player ever. Duncan Ferguson was going to be the biggest footballer on this planet. And he was scoring goals left, right and centre. We had a manager called Jim McLean at the time.
Right.
Jim McLean was a contemporary of Alex Ferguson, and in many people's eyes, as good if not a better manager than Alex Ferguson. Duncan Ferguson, he was a tall guy in stature, he was tall in terms of his ego, he was tall in terms of his outspokenness, and everything was just huge. He was fast. Gets a bit too big for his boots. Thinks he starts dictating things to Jim McLean, to wee Jim McLean. What he wants to do, where he wants to play, how much money he wants. What did Jim McLean say to him?
See ya.
Jim McLean said to him, for the next 4 weeks, you are with the junior team, you are digging the trenches at the junior pitch. I'll not see you in the first team again for 4 weeks. Now off you go.
And what happened?
He came back a different character. Different character.
And
Learned
scored
his
more
lesson.
goals?
And McLean's point was, look, I needed him. We suffered because he wasn't there, but we could not have that. We were a team. We could not have people dictating. Didn't matter how prodigious their talent.
But how do you know there hasn't been some discussion? How do you know that Kelly didn't want to take the whole year off?
I don't know that.
We
I
don't.
know that.
So there might have been some of
But
that.
if I'd been team principal, I'd have said no.
I can see your perspective, but I think you'd have struggled.
Oh, no question.
So anyway, but fundamentally, Juha Kankkunen wouldn't make that decision
No.
next year at all. But for me, to get back to the point, to get away from Duncan McLean
Ferguson.
or whatever his name was.
It's just been sacked by Inverness Cali Thistle. Well, no, he's not been sacked.
Niche
He ran out of
audience,
money.
you're not talking to many people. To see Juha Kankkunen back in the service park I think he mentioned that he wasn't doing Sweden or something, but however many rounds, it is going to be fantastic because in our sport, we are short of manufacturers at the minute. We're a little bit short of drivers,
characters.
short of characters. To
Yeah.
have Kankkunen, somebody who has that historical relevance and that ability to recall incredible situations, it's such a bonus for next year.
Sure.
But the other point I wanted to make as well is that you touched on this earlier, Cole. He is somebody, he talked about Uwe Anderson being somebody that he'd
Jean
learned
Todt
his craft from,
he talked
Jean
about,
Todt,
didn't he?
but also Cesare Fiorio.
Yes.
To have learned from
Yes.
these three people who knew all about how to make the right team orders, how to make the right call this way and that way. It's incredible, and he will have a skill set that has been shaped by rallying greatness. And to have
It is interesting, isn't it? I wonder whether he's had approaches in the past, because when did he last drive? It was late 90s, early 2000s? Probably 2000. What was his last
very
season?
early 2000.
2000. So it's nearly 25 years. I wonder why it's taken so long for him to actually come into a management role and regularly back into the service.
he obviously he's built up his own school. We've talked about that in the past. He's got the Juha Kankkunen ice driving school. If you want to do some ice driving, Dirtfish, we can help you. Wisconsin, incredible ice driving USA. It's the place to be. Go to drive.dirtfish.com. You'll find out all about how to go ice driving in America. It is genuinely the
You've done a
most
bit of ice
amazing.
driving.
I've done a bit of ice
You
driving.
beat Chris Atkinson once in an ice driving
I
race.
did. That's another story. And I didn't actually beat him. I was within a second of him. I may have told that
The
story
story
before.
changes. I beat him, but then he beat me. But I did beat him.
I did. No,
A bit like I beat
I'm
you
not
in
sure.
the cross carts, but then I didn't beat
No,
you.
you never beat me. You did not beat me in the
did.
cross cars.
And then
So
I
yeah,
crashed him.
but the point is, Juha's busy. He's been busy, and just regardless, for me to see him back in the service park is fantastic news. He's going to bring a different dimension, and just to have that opportunity to go and chat. When we get to Monte Carlo, he's seen a whole set of other Montes that we've never really talked about, and the fact that we've got that incredible film archive now, the Barry Hinchliffe archive, incredible. We've got all the pictures to put with Juha's career. You know exactly where to go for all of the best stories.
Absolutely. Listen, I think David's absolutely right. It is such an exciting move, and there are always going to be two camps, and there are always two trains of thought, and you know what, you can argue both ways. Do you need one person at the top? Do you need a number of people feeding into it? It doesn't really, at the end of the day, you can't say one way's right, one way's wrong.
Well, you can't say I'm right, you're wrong. We'll
You can
see this
always
time
say
next
he's right.
year.
You don't have to mean it. You can always say he's right. But no, it is enormously exciting. And it's enormously exciting that Toyota have found a way to keep Jari-Matti in the mix as well. Because clearly one of the issues with Jari-Matti is he retired too early. And it was just circumstances. There was a time, wasn't there, after he'd accepted the team principal role, we thought, actually, if he'd still been on the driver market, Hyundai probably would have had him.
Yeah.
Toyota would have had him as a full-time driver again. Maybe I think it was a year after. So it was a year after he'd been announced as team principal. And I think when you talk about, we've talked excessively about, Cali and whether it was right or wrong for him to take the time off. Clearly his head wasn't exactly in the right space. I think that's maybe the same with Jari-Matti. His head's not exactly there. He's still thinking, I still want to drive, I still want to do events. And they found a way to keep him within the family, to utilise all that experience he's gained over the last 3 or 4 years.
But I
think that's clever.
He'd always said that, hadn't he? That he only accepted the job on the proviso that he would be allowed to continue to drive.
Yeah.
And a big thing for Jari-Matti this year was the change in regulations, which now allows him to use that Celica DST, the turbo four-wheel drive, the later car that he's had rebuilt. So it all kind of came at exactly the right time for him. And it is, his evolution as a team principal, it's not that single leader that we've talked a lot about, but he has grown completely into the role.
A different man.
He's a very different man.
Different
now
man from the man that
to
we
what he
saw.
was in 2021.
21.
And he's got so much managerial experience now, and you look at the way he works with the people around here, it's great. He has a real understanding of how to work with a team and how to bring a team together.
Absolutely.
That it can be, two incredible Finnish rally drivers at the top of your team, better than one.
It's going to be fantastic.
Maybe.
It really is. Let's watch with interest. It is so good to have Juha back in the service park. It's great that we're keeping Jari-Matti in the service park. But what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below, either on the vidcast or on the traditional podcast. There are plenty of opportunities for you to comment on the debate. Yeah, lots more to come, folks. Thank you very much for joining us on this bonus edition of Spin the Rally Pod.